going.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Gaming Mix podcast, your official podcast from analogstickgaming.com. Of course, if you don't know me by now, my name is Jordan, one of the co-owners of Analog Stick Gaming, and to my right, as always, we have the founder Jeff. But Jeff, you actually have someone new with you this week.
Yeah,
Would
Sugar's
you like to
having a
introduce
little
them?
bit of a Sugar's having a little bit of a so this is banter.
There has been a transformation. We now have a dog on the Analog Stick Gaming team.
And he's a biter. He's a biter. And he loves match 3 games. Loves them.
Of course, we're here to bring you gaming news. We have a lot of Xbox-centric news this week, which we'll get to at some point. But before that, Jeff, I guess that I should talk about the fact that last night I actually got to watch Gladiator 2.
Oh yeah.
So I got to watch that a little bit earlier. There was an early showing in a cinema near me. And as someone who loved the original movie, I think this one is very good, and I certainly want to watch it again. At the moment, I'm just not sure if it has that same magic that the original did. I think
Well,
there's
I mean, you got to remember a lot of that magic essentially comes from like the years and years and years that after that film has kind of come out, because when you watch a movie for the first time, you don't think like, oh, it's got this magic. You think about it years after in terms of like
that's very true,
bringing
and that's
film.
kind of why I'm ruminating on it at the moment.
Yeah.
I am going to have a full written review over on the Outer Haven because I don't do movie reviews very often, but as I say, with the original being one of my favorites ever, I felt like this was a good one for me to review. But as my quick kind of snapshot, I would say they do some really interesting things with the story. The characters and the performances are very strong across the board, and it's a big screen spectacle kind of movie. So if you can see it on the big screen, I would really recommend going and doing that. But I do think it has a couple of shortcomings, which I'll discuss in my full written review on the Outer Haven, which hopefully, all being well, should be out later today. So around the time you're seeing this podcast, hopefully, if things work out right. So if it is, I'll link it below, and you can go and check that out. But Jeff, before we get to gaming, how have you been?
Not too bad. I mean, I've been dealing with this little monster here, trying to get them potty trained and all that kind of stuff. So he has been distracting me, and biting me. But we're figuring that stuff out. So
Fair.
hey, calm down.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will work out, and he'll be trained, and he will. Next minute, you'll be asking, "Is this banter, or is this banter, or is this banter?" And
Well, I
maybe
mean,
banter will be everywhere.
yeah, he gets along with our cat Sugar as well too. Like he still chases her and stuff like that, but they have these like nice little sweet moments. Like I had to go to work yesterday, and so he was like howling and stuff because I was watching through the camera, and then I could see Sugar's little ears pop up at the bottom of the camera next to the cage, and she was like
Oh,
calming him down. So there are these
that's nice.
nice little moments, but
That is
Sugar's
nice.
definitely feeling the worst of it.
And with him being young as well, they'll be together, so hopefully they'll build up that little bond like we have, although I don't know which one of us is a cat and which one is a dog. We'll figure that out. But yeah, I guess other than that, you've probably been playing lots of games. You usually are.
Yeah, I've been playing quite a few. There's one that I just got code for that I played a little bit of that I'm not going to talk about today, which
Okay.
is Rage of the Dragons Neo, just because I haven't played too much of it. But its history is pretty interesting because it used to be it tried to be a Double Dragon game, and then they just couldn't get the license at the last minute, so they had to pretty much scramble to change it. So there's some neat
That
stuff.
is interesting. Yeah, that's not something I knew. So that is interesting, and I look forward to hearing you talk about it on future episodes. A quick announcement: next week, our episode will be our Game Awards predictions episode. Because if you haven't heard, and I don't think we have this in the news, but if we do, we can talk about it now. And that is the official nominees for the Game Awards are going to be announced on Monday, this coming Monday, which is the 17th, I believe.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. And then later next week, we will record our Game Awards predictions episode. And for those that don't know, the way we kind of do it is whichever one of us wins the Game Awards in our predictions will then get, if necessary, a deciding vote on our overall analog stick gaming game of the year, if and when necessary. So that'll be interesting. So please make sure you tune in for that episode. Obviously, subscribe, and you'll see it here in your YouTube if you do that. But for now, Jeff, why don't we get to the latest video game news? Because there's been a lot of it.
There has been a fair bit. I'm just going to grab some stuff at random here. And hey, you're going to calm down when I'm doing the news, right? No? Oh, okay. All right. We're doing this. Okay. Microsoft has said that Avowed's delay wasn't the result of quality concerns with the game. Obsidian's RPG, which was once scheduled for release this year, but in August, Xbox said it was pushing the title to February of 2025. With Microsoft having a relatively large first-party lineup for late 2024, it said at the time that it wants to give players' backlog some breathing room. Spencer discussed the delay in further details in a new interview with GameFile. We can afford it when we have the Diablo expansion, then Black Ops, then Indie, he said. We didn't move it because Obsidian needed the time, they'll use the time. Spencer said, you are making this very difficult. You were just being so active during the news. All right. Spencer added that Xbox Game Studios head Matt Booty and we planned it out. We talked with the Game Pass team. We said, okay, let's make sure we pace this out a little better. Announced in July 2020, Avowed is a first-person fantasy action RPG set in the world of the Aura, which was originally introduced in Obsidian's Pillars of Eternity series. Yeah, so I mean, like, here's the thing.
Go on.
So Avowed was essentially delayed to give players backlogs like a lot of time. But have
Yeah.
you seen what it's releasing alongside in February with?
Yeah, I know. And to be fair, I feel for them because what happened was they were one of the first ones to delay, and they delayed till February.
Yeah.
And then Assassin's Creed followed them from November to February. And then it's so yeah, they've been in an awkward situation. Obviously, what I will say though is on this particular news, I actually 100% believe this to be the case. I 100% believe that this game was delayed purely for scheduling reasons. I think that
Yeah.
if they wanted to release it in November, they could have.
Yeah. I mean, and like, yeah, because I mean, you there's a lot of games also that have a completely different vibe that are releasing in February as well. Because you've got what Civ, there's
The new
the
Yakuza as well.
Yakuza, and then at the end of hi, at the end of this podcast is going to be so much fun, right? Just so much
Banter is
fun,
just
uh,
attacking Jeff.
unbelievably fun. What are you doing? What are you biting? And then you've got Monster Hunter at the end of the month as well too.
Yeah,
Not
so it's going
biting.
to be an interesting
Sorry.
one. Obviously, Avowed does have the advantage of being on Game Pass, so more easily accessible
Yeah.
to a lot of people, which will help it because we've seen some games during busy periods just completely get forgotten about. But given that it's on Game Pass, I think that will significantly help it. I think Obsidian's reputation for making really good RPGs will also help the game. And then, speaking of Avowed, there was a small bit of news I wanted to add on to this because I did see yesterday evening for me, they released the pre order trailer which basically you can pre-order a premium edition, and it also, I would imagine, based on current trends with Game Pass and first party Xbox releases, that you'll probably be able to get a premium edition upgrade. So if
Yeah.
you want to pay a certain amount of money, you'll be able to get that. And with that premium edition, you do get up to, and this is the first time I've ever seen a game say this, where it says up to 5 days of early access.
Yeah.
So there is a chance you could get it a bit earlier if you want to pay for the premium edition, or what I would imagine will be a premium edition upgrade. Um, and that's something, given that it's a busy month in a weird way, I can see a lot of people doing that just to help them tackle things a bit more easily. But
Speaking of
we'll
tackling
see.
things a
We'll
whole
see.
lot easier, this is so easy, right? Being a dad parent, being a dog parent, so easy, unbelievable. You wouldn't believe it.
Um, and talking of news, there is more Xbox news because apparently the console isn't the only thing anymore that they have. They've decided to market that Xbox is basically everywhere, and what is an Xbox and all these sort of
Yeah,
things.
I know
But
some people are
talking,
kind of split on like how the ad, like
yeah,
it feels like the ads of like the early like game magazines and stuff like that,
yes.
where they're trying
But
to be hip and
talking
cool.
about Xbox being everywhere and being everything, we have had some confirmation that it probably will be in a different form factor in the future as well, right, Jeff?
Yeah. So all right. So Xbox boss Phil Spencer has confirmed that Microsoft is working on a handheld gaming prototype, but it's claimed that any potential device is still years away. Microsoft's gaming CEO has reportedly hinted that it could create its own Steam Deck style Xbox device. In a new interview with Bloomberg, the exec said that the expectation is that we would do something in the category. Microsoft is working on prototypes and considering what it might do, Spencer confirmed, and he asked that his hardware team to analyze the market and develop its vision based on what it learns. Any device is a few years out, he said. In the near term, Xbox will focus on making its app work better on existing portable devices, partnering with hardware manufacturers to make sure their products sync. Longer term, I love us building devices, and I think our team could do really some innovative work, but we want to be informed by learning and what's happening now. So, I mean, yeah, like, I mean, obviously, like, we're in like the prototype. Stop it. We're in like the prototyping phase right now. So, I mean, like, again,
Yeah.
you're going to be prototyping for years.
However, what I would say is that given that they've officially confirmed they are working on one now, that probably means that they're pretty confident that they will get to the point where they're able to bring out some sort of handheld device. Um, and what this sounds like to me, based on what was said, is that, because another thing they mentioned was like, for what they want to do, the hardware isn't really there right now. And that makes me think that, one of the big complaints with handhelds has been the battery life isn't good enough. And I do
Yeah.
wonder whether they're going to wait potentially for maybe ARM to do something, or one of these companies to make their chips more power efficient, which would allow, you know, better battery life off of the same sized battery essentially. So it would allow them to not make a device that was massive to increase the battery life. It's going to be interesting to see. I do think that, and this is a wider conversation that we can have for a minute involving all of this Xbox stuff. But I think that if their vision, as they've kind of made clear, is Xbox being available wherever you want to play it, and Xbox being more than a console, now, and they've kind of messaged that for many years now, but for some reason people have only just realized it in the last year, and they're acting like it's a major change. I don't know about you, Jeff, but I think people have just sort of been under a rock slightly with that bit of the news. um but them having a handheld is the right thing, I think, if this really is the direction they're going, right?
Yeah, I mean, like handhelds have proved to be wildly successful. I mean, the Japanese market is crazy for handhelds. It's one of the reasons why the Switch has done remarkable. It's one of the reasons why the 3DS and all that kind of stuff. So having a handheld, I think, is crucial to kind of breaking into that market as well. Valve has shown that the Steam Deck is a wildly popular device for a lot of good reasons. I mean, you're playing AAA experiences generally on that, on the ROG Ally as well. So kind of taking those experiences on the go is crucial. And I mean, if they can pair that with what they're going to be doing on the next console,
Yes.
that'll be
Yeah.
interesting as well.
Although, if you believe the social media sphere, Jeff, Xbox is dying, and there will be no more Xbox consoles ever again.
Yeah, I mean, Phil has mentioned that he's would love to make more devices and is going to
Yeah,
continue to make more devices.
and
I mean,
they've
they've already
pretty much
confirmed that.
confirmed. Yeah, they've pretty
Yeah,
much confirmed that they are going to continue to make hardware, not just this handheld device. But one thing he did say that I found interesting was that he made a comment along the lines of, and I'm sort of paraphrasing here because I can't remember the exact quote, but he said something like, "We're not going to grow the market by making $1,000 consoles." And I think that that is a good sign for me, because there was obviously a lot of reports that, oh, maybe Xbox will sort of aim for the higher end market and go for, a more PC like console. And with Sony doing the PlayStation 5 Pro at God knows what price it is, depending on where you live.
and the
Um,
tariffs that might as well
yeah,
too.
and the tariffs. So I feel like all of that, with him saying, we're going to try and avoid that the best we can because that isn't going to grow the space. I think they do have, to me, it comes across as Microsoft is very forward thinking and they're always planning for the future. But I think that that's what makes them step on their own feet a lot of the time, because they end up doing things that either they're too early for, so people are not so open to the change,
Yeah,
or they end up doing something that doesn't pan out the way they think it will, right? Like, we know that for a long time they put a lot into kind of cloud gaming, and I really think that is not to say that cloud gaming hasn't taken off, because there are clearly millions of people that are playing on cloud gaming, but I do think there was a time where they thought it was going to be much bigger and much more meaningful than it probably has been so far.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I think, it's one of those things, but I'm glad to have the confirmation from them that they are still going to make hardware. I'm glad to have the confirmation from them that a handheld does exist, because I think a lot of people were in the mindset of, why would they even make a handheld though, because it doesn't make sense, because they can just get their stuff on the other handhelds. But it's
yeah. But
kind of like,
I think having a native device though
I
is
agree.
crucial because I think like you get cloud gaming. Like if you don't have good internet or if your work doesn't
Yeah,
provide Wi-Fi
I
and you're
am.
kind of playing
Yeah.
breaks or something.
And also, imagine if you do a handheld that can link in with your next console in some way. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, if you've got your own handheld and it can directly link to your whatever your next console is, that could be a selling feature as well. Like, so yeah, I agree with you that a fully kind of native supporting device that isn't reliant on cloud is kind of a must have at this point. We've seen the Steam Deck, we've seen other devices do it. I do think the price point will be interesting for those kind of things, though, because prices are going crazy at the moment, and with console prices going up and with these potential tariffs coming in, everything's going to go up in price. I just wonder whether we're on the verge of gaming getting to the point where for many people it won't even be affordable anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and that would be a real shame. But anyway, what else do we have up in the news this week?
All right. So the head of Microsoft's gaming business, Phil Spencer, discussed with Gaming File that the interview raised the possibility of Microsoft capitalizing on large player bases by providing Game Pass by leaning more heavily into paid expansions. Spencer said that there is no top down mandate and not every game will do expansions. It's really left to the creators of what plan they have for their stories. I think it's a great way for us to re engage players who may have lapsed. I don't like expansions that are manipulative. I want to have a unique point of view. I don't want it to be like, oh, the third level that you cut before you launched. In a separate Bloomberg interview, oh, this is a separate story here. They also said that they're open to even more acquisitions and so on and so forth. But for the main part of the article, it's just expansions. And like, yeah, like if you take a look at like Diablo, which is on Game Pass,
Yeah,
its new expansion that came out is a paid expansion. It's not available on Game Pass. It may, I'm guessing that when the next expansion gets revealed or dropped, they'll
yeah.
put that one on Game Pass or
And that's
something.
what I think they'll do. And I agree with you on that. And I think that it's the right way to do things because from both a business perspective and a player perspective, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're getting the base game for free, that's very good value. You're getting a $70 to $80 game for free, essentially, or included in your membership. And then if you want more of that experience, you're able to get these DLC expansions. And actually, because you're a Game Pass subscriber, you do get a slight discount on those as well.
Yeah.
So you can
Same
get
with like
them
EA Play
cheaper.
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Like
so I
Dragon Age,
think
I
that
got it a discount
it's
as
I
well.
think it's not a bad way of doing it. I think that the issue is, and I like what Phil Spencer said on this, is they need to avoid doing it in a way where it's like, no, you have to pay more money because you're not actually getting a truly complete experience otherwise.
Yeah.
Like Diablo is a complete experience. You don't have to play any of the expansions of that game. You could just play the base game, and that is effectively a complete experience. The story has a beginning, middle, and an end. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
you don't actually have to play the expansions if you don't want to, and therefore that. So yeah, I like that point. I do want to talk about the acquisition thing quickly because I did
Sure.
read into this. They did confirm that they will be looking at more gaming acquisitions. However, one thing to note within that is that Phil Spencer specifically said it is unlikely, at least at any time in the near term, that they would do anything near the size of Activision because they are still integrating Activision into the business at the moment.
Yeah, it'll be
So,
small stuff. Like again, something like Crystal Dynamics could be like
yeah.
potentially like
And
a
one thing
more
I
larger one.
found interesting, because this is kind of surprising given recent developments, he did talk about how the focus on acquisitions are potentially ones that give them a geographic difference. But
Mhm.
what happened the last time they had a geographic difference, Jeff?
Well, they had a hit game, and then they figured that wasn't enough, and then basically like shut all that down and sold off
Yeah.
IP in a studio.
So when they say geographic difference, what it really means to me is they're probably looking at European studios.
Hmm.
Because European studios, I think, are much more manageable to actually manage and take care of, you know. And I think they found the Japanese studios quite difficult. Another thing they did mention alongside this, which I found interesting, was that they are looking for development partners in China.
Hmm.
and they're looking to make partnerships there. They're not necessarily looking to buy any Chinese developers,
I
but it
mean, yeah,
does sound like
when you take a look at like some of the studios that are like making like the gotcha games and stuff that are making a crap ton of money, I mean, they can bring that to Xbox and make a ton of money as well too.
yeah.
Plus, I mean, you get, you know, games that come out of China, like was it Wukong, I think, and
Yes. Yeah, Wukong I believe was from China, yeah.
yeah.
So I think they're an upcoming sort of area within the industry, aren't they? So there's definitely going to be some investment over there. I think it's interesting. I think that ultimately all of these stories combine to tell us a bigger story that anyone who's been paying attention knows, and that is that Xbox and Microsoft have changed the focus of their gaming business. But I also don't think that that means the console hardware is ever going anywhere.
No.
I think it's just that the console isn't the sole focus of their business anymore. And and at this point, we need to sort of accept and embrace that. You know, if the
Well,
console
like
isn't for you, it's fine.
take a look at like Apple. All right. So
Yeah.
like Apple basically just started just as computers. And then they moved
Yeah, they did.
into music devices. Then they moved into phones. And then they moved into tablets. Like now they're
And
moving
did
into
and I can't
movies and all
remember,
that stuff.
Jeff. You're a bit older than me, so maybe you can remember. But were people angry when Apple decided to start doing different
They were
things?
rioting in streets. There were murders, Jordan. No, I can't remember anything really. But I mean, still, like it's the same kind of philosophy where they're moving into like other divisions essentially to present their brand elsewhere. And
And they're
Xbox
all
making
they're
their
doing
stuff,
is they're widening the reach of their gaming
yeah,
business, right? That's
yeah,
essentially
exactly.
what they're doing.
Yeah, like it's smart for Xbox to do that because essentially, like you put Xbox on TVs, and when people are
Yeah,
at a hotel and they're browsing and they see that there's Xbox and there's a controller there, they're like, "Wait a minute, I can
yeah,
play Xbox on this TV. Where's the Xbox?" And then all of a sudden they get that experience of like,
yeah.
"Oh, I can do
And
this just on a
also the other
TV."
thing is what happens with that? What you do is you get them into Game Pass, you get them into a subscription, and as subscriptions have proven, most people, once they're signed up to a subscription, are very unlikely to ever cancel it. They will just keep that subscription
Well, they're
for
very
a really
unlikely to
long time.
cancel it, but they'll talk about canceling it on Twitter all the time.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Um, you know, this is slight gaming news, but as you spoke about Twitter, apparently that place is imploded. So, you know, I want to say that I am on Blue Sky now, and we do have an official Analog Stick Gaming account on Blue Sky. I am going to get you to change the handle of that one, Jeff. So it's actually at Analog Stick Gaming, but we'll sort that out later on.
Yeah.
Because Blue Sky now has millions of users and seems to be a very nice place so far. So I would recommend coming and checking it out. There's lots of gaming people on there, many of them that you know, Jeff Grubb, Special Nick, Tom
Can
Warren.
can you on the app, can you do it like Twitter where you can actually swap accounts?
I'm not sure. That's a good question.
I'll have to
I'll
take a
have
look
to look
because
into that.
if I'm going to be jumping to Blue Sky, like I would be wanting a personal account as well, not just
Yes.
the official gaming one. So I might make just like an official gaming one um elsewhere there
Nice.
as well too. Just mainly because like I want to just be able to have my own
Of
presence on there
course.
as well too.
Of course.
So we'll take a look and see on that, but we're definitely going to be posting a lot of stuff on there as well. Like pretty much all future stuff is as much as I can remember to, just
Yes.
because it's
Yeah.
a lot to deal with.
Of course. You know, the social space is ever changing. Apparently, people have decided that Facebook doesn't even exist anymore, Jeff.
Oh, Facebook's good for buying like cheap dog crates and dog cages and stuff like that.
Oh, the dog heard about a dog.
Yeah. Stop chasing sugar.
Oh God. Anyway, let's get to more news while the dog is not next to you, shall we?
Yeah, just taking a look. Continuing the Microsoft news here, hundreds of Bethesda employees are striking today over remote working and outsourcing concerns they claim Microsoft has failed to address. Workers in Maryland and Texas are holding a one-day strike after filing a unfair labor complaint against parent company ZeniMax in October, Inverse reports. They represent the second largest video game union in the U.S., which was formed in January 2023 and includes over 300 quality assistance workers. The strike is designed to encourage Microsoft to meet the union at the bargaining table to address their concerns. According to the union, ZeniMax workers are currently required to go to the office twice a week, but it claims that many are being denied their remote work requests. Additionally, it's seeking to limit the percentage of quality assurance testers ZeniMax outsources in comparison to the numbers of full-time workers present in this bargaining unit. So yeah, like the, I mean, COVID brought a lot of the remote worker stuff, obviously for unsurprising reasons. So a lot of this stuff basically is, trying to, I gotta stop more. Is basically trying to ensure that like these people are like going to the office and so on and so forth when they really don't have to. Like if they're able to do their job,
Yeah, that's
pretty much
true.
like
That's very
elsewhere
true.
and so on and so forth, like I don't see the concern, like unless it's like a security issue, like unless with like leaks and little programs and things like
I
that.
know that. So, so one thing I know from my time working at various places in the industry is there is always a concern that if you are not in the office, it is significantly more likely that something leaks that they don't want to leak,
Yeah,
right? Um,
because we've
one
seen that a
because
lot of like
you're
programs that they
yeah,
use for internal communication have been hacked or so on and so forth and have led to a lot of issues.
yeah. So so there's always going to be that concern, but there are definitely people that and this isn't to belittle their jobs in any way, but there are people who can very easily do their job from home, and
Yeah,
should they choose to be able to do that, they should have that option, right? That like for some people being at home makes them more productive. Like not for everyone, but for some people it does. I know that productivity is another part of it because COVID showed to many studios, and don't get me wrong, that had some transitional issues in with it as well. But one thing that did come out of that situation was it was very clear that people do not work as efficiently when they're at home for the most part. Some people do, some people do not.
yeah.
And so that is probably another thing as well is like if we let's say 20% of the staff work at home, how is that actually going to affect everybody else's ability to do their job? Because if that 20% of the staff then starts sort of working 10% less efficiently, it potentially makes the entire team 10% less efficient, right? But in terms of making a game, 10% could be a really long time. Like, that could make a huge difference in terms of having to delay a game, extra costs, and all this sort of stuff.
Well,
So,
the
yeah,
the thing as well too is like there are game studios out there, specifically indie stuff, where their stuff is entirely remote. They don't have an office, they don't have anything. It costs a lot cheaper. Can you imagine the press industry if everyone was like IGN essentially, where you're like you have like an office building and stuff? Because like there's sites that are completely remote. Even like Giant Bomb, for example, is completely remote. They don't have an office. GameSpot does through fandom office
yeah.
and stuff. But like
Well, speaking of sites, our site is completely remote. We're in different
I'm in
places
my
on the
studio. I
planet.
don't know what you're talking about. This is the official
And,
Analyst Gaming
and like
studio.
even Outer Haven, who are much bigger than us in terms of audience, and we love them over there, good friends of ours. Keith there manages a lot of the kind of back end stuff. So he does it from his house, but everybody else is entirely remote, and no one on that team really lives near anyone. Like,
Yeah.
so it's, yeah, remote work can be done. I understand the pushback on it slightly, but I think that it should always be available to some degree. Even, and I think that, this union, they clearly just want a discussion about it, at least. They
Yeah, they just want
clearly
Microsoft
just,
at the table to understand their concerns, basically, and
yeah, because sometimes let's this is true, right? Of anywhere you work, of sometimes the workers might have a concern, and then actually when the business comes and explains why they've made the decision they've made, sometimes it's like, oh, okay, we actually do understand your reasoning, uh, and that's fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes it's about communication, and it's just about compromise as well. Like, how hard would it be to offer these people 2 days a week at home? Do you know what I mean? 2 days a week to work at home instead of in the office. Like, even if you can't offer them every single day at home, is there a way that you could offer them some part of what they want, and have a compromise? And this is why unions, in my opinion, are a good thing,
yeah.
because it does allow staff to group together and fight for their own rights and what they believe they are worth. So, you know, good on them, and I hope that this gets resolved in the right way for everybody involved.
All right. All right, so that ends the Microsoft news. I've also added two pieces of news that just broke as well. We'll get to them shortly. Lollipop Chainsaw Repop sold much better than expected, resulting in an improved financial forecast for parent company Extreme. The company has revised its consolidated earnings forecast for its fiscal year ending March 2025, crediting the Lollipop Chainsaw Remaster as the main reason for this. As reported by GameBiz, Extreme, who is the parent company of Lollipop Chainsaw developer Dragami Games, revised its sales forecast to 11.65 billion yen, I believe, um, which is approximately 75.4 million, up from 11 billion, which is approximately 74 million. It's also revised in its net profit to 1.08 billion, which is 6.9 million, up from 710 million, which is 4.6 million. In all, its forecasts a sales increase of 5.9%, a operating profit increase of 50%, an ordinary profit increase of 52.4%, and a net profit increase of 52.1% for the year compared to its previous forecast. The company says the main reason for this revision is that the sales of Lollipop Chainsaw Repop, which was released in September, has significantly exceeded expected sales, though it doesn't appear to have specified exactly how many copies this means or what the original expectations were. Um, Dragami announced in September that the game had sold 100,000 copies in its first week since release. Um, so, like, this is a company that obviously probably didn't spend a whole ton of money getting
Yeah.
this off the floor and stuff. So they probably probably set expectations for probably maybe 200,000 copies. I don't know.
Maybe something like that. I mean, these ones are always hard to judge, right? Because all they've effectively done is done a visual improvement on, on a
To a certain point,
game.
like there's definitely a lot more work than that. But yeah, I completely understand the sentiment. Um,
Yeah.
so again, like remasters and like all that kind of stuff are pretty low investment. Which is why Embracer is just doing them like every three
They're
months.
low investment, and they also have a guaranteed audience because you can look at the previous game, and you can, there is maths that these studios that can do to fairly effectively figure out, okay, how many people do we think that bought the original will buy this game? And that's how they set the price point. That's how they, it's why you see some remasters priced very badly, quite frankly, is because they don't expect them to sell very well. Um, and then other ones that they do expect to sell well are different. I'm happy to hear that this one has clearly exceeded expectations of some kind. I just wish that we knew more about what those expectations were.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of information that they're probably not going to publicly reveal. I mean, it's hard to track game sales now like it was
Yes,
before because there's a lot of kind of digital stuff, and I don't think there's any laws that are, forcing teams and stuff or studios and publishers to like reveal those types of numbers. So
for sure, for sure. I do want to talk about a bit of news, Jeff,
sure.
because, and this is one we have on the document, but you'll understand as I start to say what I'm going to say here. I recently picked up a game that you very much wanted me to pick up, and I haven't started playing it yet, but I picked it up on the PlayStation 5. Um, and now I'm a little bit annoyed. Why am I annoyed, Jeff?
Let's see here. So ShiftUp has said it's considering releasing Stellar Blade for PC in 2025. The company discussed plans to bring the game to PC in a Q&A session accompanying its quarterly financial results. The release is being considered within 2025, considering recent trends such as Steam's expanding market share in the AAA sector and the global success of Black Myth Wukong. We expect the performance on PC to exceed that on consoles. Published by Sony, Stellar Blade was released as a PS5 exclusive in April. To enhance the IP value and maintain momentum, we have constantly been releasing content patch and updates which have helped sustain the game's popularity. With the addition of Nier Automata DLC and the ongoing market activities, we plan to maintain the IP's popularity until the platform expansion. Stellar Blade will add the Nier Automata DLC and a photo mode next week as part of a major title update. Earlier this year, the South Korean company confirmed it was exploring the possibility of developing a Stellar Blade sequel. So I'm definitely going to be jumping back in to grab the Nier Automata stuff. Some of the outfits look amazing. And they're also adding the photo mode as well too. So that's going to be interesting as well. But you know what? I think honestly, still the PS5 Pro enhanced version of Stellar Blade is probably going to be very much on par with the PC version. I would
Yeah, and
assume
this
that
is
the
why I
modding
chose
community
to
is the only major
this is
difference.
why I chose to pick it up now, because I was like, I want to play the game for our game of the year discussion anyway. So I'm going to do that because I know that this game's going to be in Jeff's list. Like, that is no spoiler. There's a reason the overlay has, has Stellar Blade on it right now. Um, because yes, this game will be in Jeff's list. It may not be number one, but we do our game of the year based on a points system. So let's say that Jeff has his game at number two there, and he might have Stellar Blade at number two. If I have Stellar Blade at number 8, for example, it might well win our game of the year, unless we both have the same number one.
I
but
still think honestly it's going to be between probably like Space Marine 2 or Metaphor or Dragon Age. I think it's going to be like a toss up between
yeah.
those.
And this year is a little different from last year because this year we've actually played a lot of the same games. so so things are going to be more interesting, but
Well,
that's why I have to go and play Stellar Blade. Another one that I want to finish while we're on the subject is I need to go back and finish Astrobot because review season has been so crazy that I just haven't even had chance to go back and finish that game. I know very clearly how I feel about it, and I don't think those feelings will change too much based on what the game is. But, the more you can see of a game, the more easily you can rank it in a system like this. But yeah, there is part of me though that now that I have my PC set up, when I saw this news, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a game that I'm probably gonna end up buying again.
well, I mean, like this again. At the same time, they said that they're considering a PC release. Like they haven't committed to it or anything, but I think it's a safe bet that probably next summer
Yeah,
we would
I'd agree
probably
with
see
that.
something.
I'd agree with that for sure. Yeah, the reason I haven't played this, and we did cover this last week, but the reason I haven't played Stellar Blade yet is because I decided to just start playing Death Stranding again because it dropped on Xbox. I got a code, so I've been playing that, but I've also been playing Dragon Age, which I'll speak more about later on. Um, but yeah, I like games to be available on more platforms. I would be interested to see if Stellar Blade at some point comes to Xbox because I would imagine that at some point it will. I just don't know how far away that might be.
Yeah, they might have like a 2 or 3 year type of thing because I think there was like a 3 year old game or something, or no, it was Death Stranding coming to Xbox that they had like a
And that was 5 years after
yeah
the original release. So yeah,
yeah
we'll see. You might be waiting a while on Xbox, but if you've got a PC, it might come your way a bit sooner.
yeah. All right. The creator of Prime Video's upcoming video game anthology series, Secret Level, says he hopes the Concord episode will show the potential the game had. Secret Level, which was announced during Gamescom opening night live presentation this year, is a new adult animated anthology series featuring original stories set within the worlds of various video game series. There are 15 episodes in total, including stories set in the world of such video games as Pac-Man, Armored Core, Mega Man, Spelunky, The Outer Worlds, Sifu, Unreal Tournament, and Exodus. Now, in an interview with Rolling Stone, series creator Tim Miller said there were never plans to remove the Concord episode following the game's disastrous launch, and Sony's decision to remove it from sale just after 11 days. Miller, who directed Deadpool, Terminator Dark Fate, and Love, Death, and Robots, said that during the course of the 3 years he spent working on the series, he enjoyed a healthy relationship with the team at Concord, developer Firewalk, and feels bad for their efforts ended so badly. There was no nicer or more invested group of developers than the team on Concord. I honestly don't understand why it didn't work. I know that they were trying to do the best they could and that they were a talented group of artists, so I feel terrible for that. He also notes that while Concord will never return as a game, and while Firewalk has since been closed down, he hopes its presence as a part of a secret level will show them what could have been and highlight the story that could have won players over. There is definitely more this story to read. You can check it out at VGC. And yeah, like that's the thing with that was the first thing that people thought of really when Concord was shuttered, is whether or not that secret level series was um, going to drop the Concord episode. And the thing is, like, I think the Concord episode could be fine. I think it could be amazing. I think it could be the best episode on that entire series, but it's going to do absolutely nothing to move the Concord, like, you know, cog. It's not going to do anything. So
Whereas if that studio wasn't shut and that episode was really good, it might have actually been a very good thing, So that's a shame. But it is nice to hear, that they're keeping the episode and all that sort of stuff. While we're on the subject of entertainment, this isn't video game related, but I have seen that a couple of hours ago. Um, Conan O'Brien has been confirmed of the host of the next Oscars ceremony, so
hmm,
that's going to be interesting. And
yeah,
he does
definitely.
play games on occasion, so if you've ever if you haven't, I would recommend checking out Clueless Gamer because watching Conan O'Brien play video games is actually quite funny.
Yeah. Um, we covered this story. I can't remember if it was last episode or whatever, but we finally know the voice of Silence in
It
Lego
was last
Horizon.
episode because we made the prediction that we made the prediction in hope, obviously, that it would be our man from,
Yeah,
but
but it's
unfortunately it isn't. However,
no.
I'm
So
pretty happy with this choice here.
yeah, so earlier this month, Gorilla confirmed that the role had been recast in its next title. VGC can now confirm that in Lego Horizons Adventures, Silence is played by Tim Russ, a veteran voice actor who previously appeared in Starfield, Horizon Forbidden West, and Last of Us Part 2. It is currently unknown if Russ will serve as a permanent new performer for the role going forward. Um, yeah, so I'm not familiar with who he's played.
So he was in Star Trek, one of the Star Treks as well. Um, and he's done a few other TV things. But he has one of those voices, like he has one of those voices where you probably know his voice more than you do
Oh, wait a
him.
minute. If this is the guy that I'm thinking of, this is the guy that played Tuvok on Star Trek Voyager.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's actually really good. Yeah, if that's who I'm thinking, if that's who it is, because his name is Tim
I
Russ.
believe it is. Yeah, I believe it is.
Can I find Starfield on here?
I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
remember exactly who he plays.
He also played Jedika in Horizon Forbidden West as well, which I'm
Nice.
surprised that they didn't talk about. But yeah, no, he was in Dragon Age Origins. He played as Therian. Yeah, Star Trek Online played Tuvok as well.
So yeah, he's Tuvok. He's Tuvok. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, Lego Horizon Adventures. He plays Silent. Nice. No, that's actually really really good.
Good
That is
choice.
a
Very
solid
good
solid
choice.
pick.
And I do hope, actually, I haven't heard his performance as Silence yet, but based on his other acting credits and what I have seen of him, I hope that he is the permanent choice because that is a good choice.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't mind getting Lego Horizons. Like I might end up getting it on Switch despite the graphical differences and stuff like that. So I think that could be a fun game to play on my lunch breaks. But
Interesting. Yeah, yeah, it could be. I'd be interested to hear about the Switch version.
yeah, no, I might watch a couple videos and see, and if it's entirely disastrous, then I'll go from there. But speaking of playing,
It is of course also on PC, so it might be playable on Steam Deck.
yeah, I might take a look and see if it is Steam Deck verified because they might have some sales. But speaking of playing it on the go, Capcom and TiMi Studio have announced that Monster Hunter Outlanders, a new mobile game set in the Monster Hunter universe. Whereas previous Monster Hunter games on mobile have tended to feature different gameplay or more turn-based RPG mechanics, Outlanders is said to be a more authentic Monster Hunter experience on mobile. Players will explore, survive unique regions of an open world map featuring natural environments, ecosystems, and monsters, and can craft and build gear and tools. The game can be played solo or with a hunting party of up to 4 players. TeamE believes that these elements will lead to a mobile game that allows players to enjoy the Monster Hunter experience with friends anytime and anywhere. So there is an announcement trailer to check out. So I haven't had a chance to take a look and see what this is, but I almost wonder if this is the type of game that, because it's on mobile, if it's going to essentially just be Diablo, the Diablo situation all over again.
Yeah, maybe. Where it's kind of like you have to put money into it.
You guys don't have phones? Um, yeah, like if it's going to be like, where you'll have like the majority of the game will be free, you'll be crafting your stuff like that, but the moment you get to like the higher tiers or something, if it'll require like a paid currency that you know allows you to buy some of the easier items. And so then if you're not, you're grinding the same monster like 15 times to get like one piece and you need three,
Yeah. Yeah,
something like that.
that would be unfortunate. Hopefully they can avoid that, but we know how mobile games work at this point, unfortunately. They have to work in that way because they're
Yeah,
often free to play unless they do something that isn't free to play, because there are the occasional mobile games that
they don't move though. Like that's the thing
yeah,
about it, is like mobile games that have had a substantial price. I mean, take a look at um like Resident Evil and whatever, when it came to like
that's true,
Apple,
yeah.
like they talked about how those games vastly underperformed.
That's true.
um you don't get away charging. Like it's the same thing when you have like a hero shooter like Concord, and like you're in a sea of like free to play stuff. Like
You
there's
almost have to be free to play at that
you
point,
have to
right?
meet the market on its terms essentially to
Yeah,
kind of really go anywhere. So like
true.
I can see this game doing well because like I didn't play Monster Hunter Go because I didn't want to go outside and play it like Pokemon Go. Like I already had that experience. Like,
Yeah.
I even stopped playing The Witcher Go or whatever it was because like it wanted me to go 3 blocks to fight like a fucking tree monster. I'm like, no, I don't want that.
Yes.
Um, so like having like a legit Monster Hunter experience, I think could be cool.
Yeah.
Like this is the type of game that I would almost love to have seen released on Switch as well because of its
I was going to say
portability.
that, yeah.
Like obviously you have to be online with it, but I mean if they had it where like, oh, you just like hotspot your phone
Yeah.
to your
Yeah,
Switch.
they could have done something like that. That would have been interesting. And speaking of Switch, and this links to one of our news stories here. I saw recently that the CEO of Take Two said, "Don't count the Switch out" when talking about potentially releasing things like GTA on the Switch in the future.
Yeah, like I could see them releasing like GTA 5. Like I
Yeah.
could see them bringing a Switch version of that without the online.
Mm,
Um, or maybe with the online. It just depends because that like generally there's a lot more going on in the online stuff that would
that's true. That's true.
um
I mean, it would be interesting to see, and also we obviously don't know what this next Switch
yeah. I mean
is
they
going to
got
be in
Witcher
terms of
3.
power.
They got Witcher 3 on Switch. Yeah, it doesn't look or run that great, but the fact that they got Witcher 3
The
running on the
fact that they
Switch,
can make it even run on that device
yeah.
is,
I mean, again, the Switch's, architecture is like
yeah,
incredibly dated, but
yeah, for sure. And talking about underpowered systems, I think they were talking about another one recently, right?
yeah. So Take-Two chairman and CEO Strauss Zelnick has said that he's not worried about the potential performance issues related to GTA 6 on the Xbox Series X. And he says, look, we support the platforms where the consumers are for as long as they're there, and we'll find a way to support platforms despite different levels of tech. Our labels are really good at that. I'm not really worried. I've never worried about where their hardware is going. And as I said this many times over the years before, because first of all, I don't worry about things over which I have zero control. Secondly, I believe in the audience. The audience is going to show up if you have great property. So we just have to make sure that we be on an array of different platforms. So, this is essentially kind of like him talking about how he has no control on whether or not the game runs, not whether or not it will run, and so on and so forth. But I mean, like, that is a very PR answer. He's got confidence in his teams. Things are going to pull it
Yeah,
off. Like,
yeah.
we don't know, you know,
However, what it does say effectively is that they will do what they need to do to make it run on that machine.
yeah, because they know that there's like potential like millions of people that have
Yeah,
a Series S.
yeah,
Um, and they want to play Grand Theft Auto. I mean, obviously, this is no secret. The PlayStation 5 Pro is going to be the best console experience for Grand Theft Auto 6. That is
yeah. And that's probably
absolutely
a
the
big
choice.
part of the reason the PlayStation 5 Pro even exists.
It's a yeah, like it's honestly it's like for Rebirth and it's for like GTA 6. Like,
I did see
um
Maximilian Doom was like, "You can't buy a system for one game. Say hello to the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth machine."
yeah. No, I've been watching like little bits and pieces. Like he's definitely one of my favorite streamers. He's Sugar's favorite streamer as well too. She pays attention during his streams.
Nice.
But yeah, like this isn't a surprising announcement from
No, I agree.
Take Two. I mean, he's basically just it's one of those PR things where they're just reassuring players,
Yeah.
and that's the thing that you kind of want to do. And Grand Theft Auto 6 is not going to be out for like at least probably like another year.
Yeah. I think they did actually say recently, I think it might have been last week, where they confirmed that at the moment it is still on track to release in the holiday season of 2025.
Yeah,
So that's a good update at least. whether it
yeah. But when you're
whether
this
it
far
stays
out
in that date
and
is
you're
going to be
building like a
interesting.
game like that, until
Yeah,
you've actually locked in a release date where you are actually like actually no, until you are literally shipping the discs out, I will not believe a release
I
date from a
agree.
major game like
I
that.
agree. Yeah.
So
Too many things can happen. There's too many variables. And specifically for Rockstar, there's even more variables because every single one of their studios across the entire world works on every single one of their games. That's just how they do it now.
yeah.
So it's anything could happen, but hopefully we will see finally a new GTA game next year. That would be nice.
Yeah, speaking of new games, we are going to get one from Capcom veteran Hideaki Itsuno has returned to development, leading a new studio owned by Tencent subsidiary Lightspeed Studios. Itsuno will lead Japan Studio, which will operate across two offices in Tokyo and Osaka. It's announced on Tuesday. Itsuno's career at Capcom spanned over 3 decades, and in that time he served as director on classic games such as Power Stone, Devil May Cry 3, 4, and 5, Dragon's Dogma 1 and 2, as well as producing several other Capcom projects. His latest release, Dragon Dogma 2, was met with critical acclaim. VGC's Dragon Dogma 2 review called it the most vital action RPG since Elden Ring. So this is great. I mean, this is a guy that has been behind some of Capcom's, I think, most defining catalog in terms of like their non-Street Fighter kind of stuff, because Devil May Cry and Dragon's Dogma have been
Yeah, absolutely.
widely received
Absolutely agree with
as
you
good
on that. I
experiences.
mean, he's a legendary developer
Yeah,
that looked very worn out during the end of his Capcom time. And he's clearly taken a little while off, and it was quite nice to see that, along with this announcement of Lightspeed Studios and all that stuff and his return to game development, he looked very well and very refreshed. And I understand, yes, it's just a photo and they're going to get the best photo they can, but you can tell when someone looks genuinely well and full of energy and when
yeah,
they don't.
and
And he looked good.
yeah, like he could be working on a game that Capcom probably like didn't want to
Didn't want
greenlight.
to do. Yeah.
Um, like they Capcom's notorious for probably shutting down a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. So, but
Maybe
no,
he's doing some sort of weird Dino Crisis game that's not going to be Dino Crisis, but I'd like to see something like that. So, we'll see. We'll see what he's doing. I'll keep a keen eye on it. Obviously, 10 cents involved, so you never know if these things are actually even ever going to happen. But we will see. Time will
yeah,
tell.
no, it's we'll definitely pay attention to the story like when something gets announced, but it's going to be quite
And we
some
will have
time,
the news on the website. So
pretty much.
that's the only thing
Alrighty.
to say.
A pair of Californian consumers are suing Ubisoft for closing down racing game The Crew. In December 2023, the publisher quietly delisted The Crew from digital storefronts, confirmed that the online-only game would no longer be playable beginning this April. Almost after a decade of support, we will be decommissioning The Crew 1 on March 31st, 2024, it said at the time. We understand that this may be disappointing for players still enjoying the game, but is necessary due to oncoming server infrastructure and licensing constraints. Now, as spotted by Polygon, two impacted players have launched a proposed class action lawsuit accusing Ubisoft of violating California consumer protection laws. They claim to dupe consumers by telling them that they were buying a game when in fact all they were doing was renting a limited license to access a game that dependents chose to maintain at their own, I don't even know what that word is, noblesse oblige. Uh, Plaintiffs also claimed the product's packaging falsely represented that the Crew itself was encoded onto physical discs consumers could buy, or digital file consumers could play to download, when in fact the physical discs and download files consumers paid for were mere akin to a key that they could use to open the gates of this remote server, which defendants could one day decide to fail to maintain. The plaintiffs want the court to approve the lawsuit as a class action and are seeking monetary relief and damages for affected players. The suit also notes that Ubisoft previously shut down online servers for old games while preserving their offline features, as was the case with Assassin's Creed 2 and 3. This is bizarre because The Crew, honestly, does not need to be online only. There's no reason for it.
No,
And I
no.
bet you anything that Ubisoft right now is like, go make that game offline.
Yeah,
Do it now.
because it just avoids them trouble, right? Like
Yeah, it would shut down the
literally.
lawsuit entirely.
Yeah, it's really strange. It is a really strange one. I think it does go back to something I've mentioned in the past that was happening last generation, and people just didn't realize it. We got to the point where physical discs meant nothing for a lot of games.
Yeah,
The
that's why people are like, "Oh, if I buy my physical disc, like I own the game now." Haha, you digital losers! Like, no, you're still just buying a license on the disc. Like, yes, there are the abilities of playing it offline, and you do have preservation rules in effect for a very large majority, but not
Yeah,
all of the games.
no. And there are ways they can circumvent it, as this kind of shows, right? Because this is an online only game at current, it doesn't matter whether you have the disc or not, because you have to be connected to an online service to play it.
Same with Concord. You can own that game physical, and it's going to do nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm going to be interested to see what happens in this, because if they don't make the game offline playable, they're probably not going to lose this lawsuit either. Like, so it's a weird one, really. It's like, why are you even trying to sue? Because you're most likely not going to get anything, you know?
Yeah, except in this case here. Nintendo is suing a player who has said it repeatedly streamed pirated Switch games while taunting the company that he couldn't be caught. Nintendo has filed a lawsuit against Jesse Kine, who says it streams games on various online platforms under his username Every Game Guru. According to the company, Kine is a recidivist pirate who has obtained and streamed Nintendo's leaked games on multiple platforms. The lawsuit alleges that since 2022, Kind has streamed at least 10 of Nintendo's leaked games before they were released, more than 50 times in total, the most recent being Mario and Luigi Brothership. Although Nintendo says it has submitted dozens of takedown notices, and platforms such as YouTube and Twitch have shut his channels down, it says Kind continues to unlawfully stream Nintendo copyrighted works and thumb his nose at Nintendo and the law. It also claims that Kine has taunted Nintendo, sending the company a letter boasting that he has 1,000 burner channels to stream from and can do this all day. Kine has also accused of continuing to seek profit of his unauthorized streaming Nintendo games by adding Cash App details to his streams after his channels were demonetized. On top of all the above, Kine is also accused of regularly posting links to ROM repositories, emulators, and illegally obtained product keys which are needed to make them run. By not only streaming leaked games, but also directly providing user links to circumvent software, Nintendo proprietary cryptographic keys, and pirated ROM repositories, defendant is giving his viewers everything they need to pirate as many games as they wish, Nintendo claims. Indeed, defendant recently boasted that once online that he wants to help anyone and everyone who wants to get Nintendo games for free and early, or who needs help installing and setting up Switch emulators that let you play Switch games for free. So yeah, like he is going to lose a lot of money here because Nintendo, when they go after somebody for a lawsuit,
Yeah,
they pretty much get it.
yeah, yeah. And they Nintendo are one of those where they don't go after someone until they know they have something they can go after them for. They don't waste their time. Um, that's why we found the Power World situation with Nintendo so interesting, because they took a really long time to do anything with that one.
Yeah, they're going after them for like mechanics and stuff, even like not even like the designs of the monsters and stuff like that. Apparently, it's just like
Yeah,
simple mechanics, but then those mechanics have been used across a ton of other games as well too. So I don't know
yeah.
exactly. Like it feels
It's
like they just
because
want to sue
Power
them just
World
because they want to
makes
sue them.
money and they want some of the money.
Pretty much. I mean, like yeah, like this guy, like boasting that he's going to do this all day. Well, he's going to be paying them tons of money all day now. Like that's essentially what's going to be happening there.
Yeah, he's gonna owe them an amount of money that he will probably never pay in his lifetime.
Pretty much. We also had another Nintendo news here, and that is Nintendo reportedly identified a user who was allegedly pirating its software by tracking their Reddit posts and console repair requests. The user, named James Willems, not to be confused with Funhouse James Willems, used the alias Archbox online. Via this username, a firm hired by Nintendo was able to link the account, which had posted in subreddits and about Switch piracy, to other posts that identified their location. According to GameFile, recent court filings revealed that Nintendo hired the law firm Mitchell, Seberg, and Knupp to investigate free shops or online stores for pirated Switch games. The report goes on to say that in or about February of 2024, plaintiff Nintendo succeeded in linking Archbox with at least two Nintendo accounts for an individual named James Willems. Following this, it's claimed that Nintendo was able to check the internal records and find a matching email address used by Williams, which was tied to an address in Arizona, which previously Reddit posts had suggested where Williams was, his home state. So, they're going to be going after this guy as well. Like, Switch piracy is one of the reasons why the Switch 2, I think, is taking so long, because I think that they are kind of working on architecture that's not going to be so easily pirated. Obviously we're still going to have Switch piracy, like, crazy and stuff, but just because, like, they were able to kind of break the system so early into a point where Nintendo wasn't able to kind of patch that out, because it was kind of like the core architecture of the Switch. So I think the Switch 2 is going to be drastically harder. I mean, it's going to be cracked at some point.
You would imagine, yeah, you would imagine they're doing things to make it as hard as possible. There is one way to avoid this whole situation, and that is release your games on PC. Like,
Yeah, that'll never happen.
I know they don't care, but at some point you have to wonder from their perspective whether they do the maths and think to themselves, well, we can avoid a lot of people pirating these games by just officially releasing them on PC because they'll buy them instead. Like, you know.
Yeah, but Nintendo being Nintendo, they would release the Nintendo PC.
Oh, that's true. They
They
probably
would
would.
just they would just do that.
I mean, they release alarm clocks and God knows what else.
You'd have to
So,
pair your cell phone to it as well. Yeah, Nintendo's gonna Nintendo. All right, the last gaming story of the day. A planned Splinter Cell movie starring actor Tom Hardy has been canceled, its producer has suggested. News around the live-action movie, first announced in 2012 with Hardy as the protagonist, Sam Fisher, has been fairly silent for more than a decade since. However, speaking to the direct producer Basil Iwanek, who signed on for the Splinter Cell project in 2013, has suggested that it's no longer happening. That movie would have been awesome. Just couldn't get it right, script wise, budget wise, but it was going to be great. We had a million different versions of it, but it was going to be hardcore and awesome. That's one of the things that got. That's one of the ones that got away, which is really sad. Yeah, I mean, when you announce a video game movie in 2013, and we're looking at the calendar year it being almost 2025, one would surmise that that movie has been canceled. Either that, or they release it and it becomes another Borderlands.
yeah, I mean, there is always the case with this that the project has moved along and he just isn't aware because he's not attached to it anymore. Because, and what I mean by that is, for example, the Uncharted movie, which happened with Tom Holland, right? Originally, when that movie was first pitched, Mark Wahlberg was meant to play Nathan Drake. Like, and then by the time the movie got into a place where they felt comfortable making it, he was too old to play that part. Like, sometimes these things do happen. Like, so there is a chance that whoever owns the rights to make the movie is still exploring the possibility of doing so, but whatever that original movie was going to be is definitely cancelled for sure, as you say, Jeff. Like,
Yeah, like I still do, like, it may happen, but it'll probably be like a completely different group of everybody,
I
completely different
agree.
actor and all
I
that kind of
agree.
stuff.
The
Going
one
after
that
that.
I'm actually more interested in, and has been more recent, so I'm hoping will actually happen, and that is there's meant to be some sort of division program or movie, and I think Netflix were attached at one time, and Jake Gyllenhaal is supposed to be in it as well.
Hmm.
Um, so Ubisoft have been trying to do a lot of things in this movie and entertainment business, but Assassin's Creed didn't work out too well for them as a movie. So maybe that
But
put
yeah,
them
like
off a bit.
it focused too much on the real events, which is the stuff that Ubisoft is moving away from technically. Like
Yeah,
when you see the
yeah.
recent in,
And we've actually
but like,
seen, but we have seen talk recently while we're on the subject. There has been some reports recently because of an interview, and I forget who it was with, but one of the Assassin's Creed team members, and they were talking about how they have actually been exploring ways to do the modern stuff in a more interesting way once again. And one of the person who was talking about it basically talked about the fact that during the Desmond years, people were actually interested in that modern storyline, and then it never went anywhere because of how the series evolved, and they had to move on from him, and they couldn't do what they originally wanted to do with it. And so I think that maybe they're looking at tackling that in a separate way. But yeah, I think for the movie, you're absolutely right. They didn't need to. They spent too much time in the movie focusing on the modern day stuff and not enough time focusing on the cool kind of, oh,
Yeah,
we're in
the stuff that
Spain.
they pulled the trailer off of, like all the
Yeah,
stuff when the movie was focused on its like Assassin's Creed stuff, like the stuff that was in the past and whatnot. The movie was
yeah,
actually really good, but it was
yeah.
all the modern day stuff that just dragged it down entirely. I mean, that was the whole reason why I never played the original Assassin's Creed games, because the moment they went to like the real world stuff, I'm like, I'm out. If it
That's
had just been a
brilliant.
period piece stuff, I would have loved it.
Brilliant, brilliant. Fair enough. Well, so that is our news done for the week, is it, Jeff?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I keep refreshing and stuff to find new stuff, but I mean,
Nice.
other than like, Blizzard reportedly making an online open world shooter and all that kind of stuff, and like the
Yes.
GTA trilogy studio, apparently that made the game has been removed from the opening
They
credits.
have, yes, because that game did receive a massive update. Um, that trilogy collection received a massive update, and apparently, although they haven't changed the character models, they have changed a lot of artistic stuff to make it better represent the original games. Like they've changed the color grading, they've changed weather effects. So it does sound like that trilogy is in a much better place now
Because
than
it
it
was the
was.
mobile versions, I think, that got done and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
the
yeah,
last bit of great news is the fact that The Onion has purchased InfoWars and plans to
yes,
turn it into a parody of itself, which is so fucking funny. I like on Twitter, they're saying like, "Hey, everyone said it'd be funny if we did this, so we did this." So that's
yeah,
absolutely fantastic. That Alex Jones or whatever his fucking name is
yeah. I mean,
out of a
fuck that
job.
guy.
So yeah, and he owes millions. It's great. But
um,
that's
but
basically it.
yeah, let's talk about what we've been playing, and I'll go first because I haven't been playing as much as you, I would imagine. But I have been playing a bit of Dragon Age because I restarted it because unfortunately I
I'm
just wasn't
surprised you
able
didn't
to.
restart it to try and catch up while you were waiting for the save file.
Well, I know, but I didn't think of that, Jeff. However, here's an interesting update for you. I did restart it, and now for the last couple of days, I haven't even been able to boot the game on my PC. It boots and just crashes like every single time that I boot the
Oh
game.
no.
So I haven't lost the save. The save is still there, but the game, for whatever reason, has not been loading up for the last few days. And I've tried all the technical things I can think of. I've uninstalled the game, I've installed it to a different hard drive, all of this stuff. So if you've been having some sort of issue with Dragon Age the Velguard on PC, uh, and having it essentially crash during or just after shader compilation, please, if you know how to fix it, let me know below so that I can get the game finished and actually do my review of it because that would be great. I've looked up. Apparently, the team is aware of it, and it is something that's meant to be getting patched as well because they do know that other people have been having this issue. So it's not just me. It's just annoying that I've now had a sequence of issues with this great game that
Sending
are
you this,
really
I don't know
impacting
whether or
my
not it'll
experience.
fix it or anything like that, but
Okay.
because these are about a week old.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
See how that goes.
But
But yeah,
yeah, I other than that, I've sort of played a few more things on the PlayStation 5 Pro to test out a few things. I'll still be doing some coverage of that for the Outer Haven, but obviously with everything going on with Dragon Age, things are all mixed up right now. Um, but what I would say is something I found quite interesting about the Ubisoft PlayStation 5 Pro enhanced games, for example, Assassin's Creed Mirage, they completely removed the option to choose between graphics and performance mode. So, and that's how they're dealing with their PS5 Pro enhancement is you
Just
don't
combining them.
even get the choice anymore. It's just this is the way that it's playable, and you now deal with it.
I mean, that honestly, for me, like if you're making a PlayStation 5 Pro, it should just be that, where you just get everything. You get 4K, you get 60, you get uncapped frames if you got the display to do it, you get ray tracing,
Yes,
like all of it.
yeah,
That should be the dream,
I
right?
agree.
Just
And
one setting.
what I will say, I've only really dug a bit deeper on Assassin's Creed Mirage for Ubisoft specifically, but it runs very, very well. And to the naked eye, at least, during general play, it does seem like the output is either at or very near 4K. Um, it's very likely that they're using PSSR upscaling or PISR, as you might like to call it.
Oh,
um,
sir.
but yeah, in terms of performance, it definitely, because when I played the game originally for review, I played it in the graphics mode because I like my games to look as good as they can look, and I'm not against 30 FPS. I never really have been. But obviously, now on console, there is no doubt that the best way to play that game is the PS5 Pro, because you do get 60 FPS and it's
Should be
noticeably
spending a
smoother.
thousand Canadian for it. It should.
For sure, for sure. And then yeah, I think the next thing I'll be testing out on there is probably Stellar Blade, which I'll play a bit of later today, I think.
Nice.
Unless I can get Dragon Age actually working again, and then I'll be playing more of that. But Jeff, what have you been playing recently?
So I have been playing, let's bring up the list here. So yeah, I've been playing a bit more of Mario and Luigi Brothership. I've started to unlock more of the combat stuff. I will say like the game is has a lot of like these little pauses that um you kind of have to go through. Like the leveling up screen, I think is a little bit too long. The loading screen is a bit too long. You can speed up. It has like a speed up button that you can hold down, but it doesn't really speed up dialogue. Um, so there's a lot of these little things that kind of make the game a little bit longer, and then you get these like side quests that you can visit. So basically, like the game has essentially you needing to resurrect this like tree thing that sends energy out to like the land and lock them all in, and then basically the land gets like split up, and that tree essentially like stops sending that power. So you're on a ship that can substitute itself for the tree. So you're going around to all these different islands and basically grabbing the plug and then connecting it back to the boat that you're on. So you basically sail around on these currents while you try and find a boat or little things that are off to the side, and so on and so forth. Um, but yeah, like it's the gameplay is super fun. Like again, I never played the previous ones. I'm only aware of them through seeing like how they played and whatnot. But you are basically like turn-based. You basically can hit a button while you're hitting the enemy to then swap to Luigi to then swap back to Mario. There's different things where you can kick a Koopa shell around and all that kind of stuff to either attack all of the enemies as Luigi or one specific enemy as Mario. Um, it plays really nicely. I think it looks really decent. I'm not a fan of the shading, which we brought up last episode.
Yes.
But like the game is super fun. I think like it's supposed to be super, super long. So I don't know where I'm at in the game, but I think I'm on like my third or fourth island.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay.
but the game is still actually, pretty decent. I'm gonna keep playing it. I don't know if it's one I'll keep in my collection after I'm done. But no, it is a pretty decent little Mario adventure. There's a weird thing where Luigi's like, "Oh, I know what to do," and then he turns him and Mario into like a alien spaceship to cross like a large gap, which is super weird. I don't know how that works, but Luigi has these little moments where he'll come up with an idea. Um, so it's actually more of like Luigi and Mario brothership, as Luigi has like some pretty big moments. There is one moment where like Toad or something like that, it's like, oh hey, it's Mario. Oh, Luigi's here too. That's really funny. But no, it's not a bad game. It's actually pretty decent. I'm liking it a lot better than Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, which I'm still working on a little review. I think the majority. I think I actually have it written. I think I just have to uh, peruse the final draft
As
and finesse it.
if you couldn't tell already, this is a game that Jeff didn't really want to review, I think, by the
No, like
end of.
my roommate ended up buying Zelda through Amazon, and it shipped here. And she's like, "Hey, you can play it for review until I come home to grab it." So I did, and yeah, like I don't think it's great. People are like, "Oh, it's going to be one of the 5 nominated games for like Game of the Year," and I'm like, "It's not a good game though." Like this is like if it gets in there, it's the equivalent of Stray. It's in there just because like you know they're filling a
Because
gap, but you
Nintendo.
don't have to fill a gap this year. There's some
There's
absolutely
so many.
amazing games.
Yeah, so many.
But no, I've been playing that. I've also been playing. So I beat Dragon Age Veilguard. That game was absolutely amazing. I got
Fantastic.
the good ending and all that kind of stuff. So like it's there's a couple little things that you kind of have to do. It's nothing like too complicated. Fans of Mass Effect 2 will absolutely love what the last mission represents. But no, there's a lot of it's absolutely fantastic. Like that game is so good. I've got little minor issues, nothing
Yeah,
absolutely drastic. But no, the game went and existed and ended exactly how I um, could have imagined for it. Like it's just absolutely great.
great.
Um,
Great. I mean, as you all know, I've loved what I've been able to play of it, and I wish that I could get it finished.
yeah, I've got about I'd say about half of my Dragon Age review done, so I'll be working on this weekend.
Nice.
Provided who doesn't become a massive distraction for the next three
Yeah.
days.
Yes.
But I did beat Awaken Astral Blade. This is a Metroidvania that has almost like a hand drawn or like a stylized drawn kind of experience. It's a very pretty game. I think like there's a lot of it that looks really cool. It reminds me of some other games that kind of use like art assets where like you're not animating the leg actually moving. You're just you have a detached thigh and knee and stuff, and you're just kind of moving that around. So it kind of has that feel to it, but it still looks really good. I will say the script has tons of spelling errors and grammatical errors. The voice acting doesn't match the subtitles all the time. There's countless moments where I believe that the voice actors barely know English and they're speaking English, so they're mispronouncing words all of the time. Like they're like when you say like wait if you say something like I don't know pilgrimage, you know how to say pilgrimage, but they're just
Yeah.
saying pilgrimage. Like they're saying like these weird like they're saying like if you go pilgrimage, you know that there's a way to say that with the
Yeah.
3 syllables, right?
Yeah, there's
They'll say it,
syllables. We know how syllables work.
yeah, they'll say it like different men, like just like I said, different there. Like they'll say it like different ways. Like it's weird. I swear to God that most of the voice actors in that game do not know English that well. Um, and there's weird pacing in the sentence as well too, because like you could say a sentence like I believe this is important. Like you have pacing to the sentence, but most of the sentences in there don't have the same pacing. So they're saying something important and then they'll say the last word almost as if it's supposed to carry on to the next sentence. It's just weird. Like anything to do, I don't think the story's great even remotely. I don't think the acting performances are great. I don't think the characters are clearly defined. I don't think that anything regarding the characters of the story is even remotely good. But the gameplay and stuff is fine. I think the momentum of moving around is good. It's not Prince of Persia Lost Crown good or anything like that. but it is a fairly okay Metroidvania. I never felt like I was truly getting lost. You get your abilities pretty frequently. There's a lot of the map that you don't need to explore if you're going to beat the game. There's a skill tree and weapon system that I think is fine if you are um, seeking to put those points in particular ways, because you will never ever play the game enough to really flesh out everything in that skill tree. Like, you have a skill tree for like weapons. Now you can grind the hell out of those the enemies and stuff by resting and then refilling those areas. But I just focused on the scythe, and I barely had enough currency to get where I needed to go, let alone
Wow.
building up the sword or the little darts that you get that honestly did absolutely nothing. Um, but
Fair.
like the game is fine. Like it's not something that I don't think I'm gonna recommend. So that might put a hint on my score there. But I think like honestly, like it's a very pretty looking Metroidvania game. I think like it's got difficulty settings. It's got a thing where like if you die like 5 times on a boss, it'll give you this thing called Rookie Soul, and then basically every single time you die after that, you get 20% stronger and 20% more health. So like I would just like some of these bosses are just a nightmare because of some of how the
Yeah.
movement works or some of like their abilities to like just constantly stagger you.
So it's
So I would
basically
just go in,
got
die.
the Hades God mode
Pretty
type
much,
system.
but you have to die 5 times in order to trigger it. And then what I would do is I would just go in and die like 4 or 5 other times, and then I would just basically go in and steamroll the boss because I would be like 80% stronger because
Nice.
it just keeps increasing. Um, because like some of the fights in that game, like on normal and stuff like that, were just a nightmare because of like how you'd get hit, and then you get knocked over, and then you get staggered. Anything to do with slowing your character down or freezing, I was like so ready to uninstall the game because of it. Like those moments sucked ass because you're just sitting there and you're frozen and falling, and the boss is like slash 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 slash, and then enemies. If you knock them onto the ground, you can't keep hitting them. You have to wait till they get up to do damage.
What? That's a weird system.
Yeah, it's I think it's mainly just because they don't have animations for the enemies getting hit on the ground,
Yeah, it
but I don't
must
see
be.
why you would need it. Like, I don't know, like it again, it is a good game. It's just not something that I can truly recommend just because of how some of the systems work, and especially like the
Yeah.
story and
Which
characters are
certainly
not
does
great.
give you a hint on Jeff's score if you know how our recommends work. And if you head over to our Open Critic page, you can probably figure out how our recommends
Yeah.
work.
But yeah, no, like there's that end of it, and like I'll be playing more of that what is it?
The one you picked
Rage
up.
of the Dragons Neo. I also picked up Splitterhead, so I'll be playing that probably this weekend as well too.
Nice.
Yeah, and no, like there's gonna be a bunch of stuff hitting Game Pass. So I'll be playing Stalker 2
Yeah,
when that
we
comes out as well.
unfortunately both of us in the end didn't get a code for that. So you know we'll be talking about it and covering it within the next couple of weeks, I imagine. There is going to be something that I'm previewing that I can't tell you yet, but I'll talk about that in the future as well, and we'll have something written up on the site
Yeah,
for
I'm
that.
really looking forward to that too.
Yes. So that's going to be an interesting one for sure. So make sure you keep your eyes on the website for that as
That'll
well.
be
But
our second
before we,
preview, following the other one that I did.
yeah, eventually when we do some more, we'll probably have a preview section on the site. It's just that at the moment, we haven't
Yeah,
done that
opening up a
many.
page with like one preview. Oh wow, look at the content. So we're gonna definitely keep it up to like the news things and stuff like that.
Yeah, and we
But
have been and we have been sort of posting more news more regularly. Um, I just want to remind people there is only the two of us dealing with this website. So if you like what we do, you like our website, if you have any, you know, thoughts on the podcast, for example, let us know because and please say something below. If you've been enjoying what we've been doing, please interact with us because we would love to interact with you. Keep following the site because things are getting better and better. We are, you know, we do work hard. Jeff plays a lot of the games for review. I handle quite a lot of kind of back end stuff, so you may not realize it from me as much, but I guess I can say this now. I'm essentially the reason that we're on Open Critic. I handled that whole application process, and that was kind of dealt with. Um, yeah, we're a very good team, but there's only two of us,
Yeah, and
and
I
that's why we
also work a
maybe
full
don't
time job
cover.
as well too. So
Yeah,
I'm gone for
and
like
that's why we don't
3 hours
cover
of the
as
day.
much as some other places, right? Like we would love to be able to do 10 previews or 15 previews in a year as well as 100 reviews, but when there's only a team of two of us, that isn't really even possible. So we just try and do the best that we can do, and we want to say to thank you as well to anyone who allows us to provide that coverage for their video games because we really do appreciate it as a smaller outlet here. But before we go, Jeff, do we have anything to plug for people that's going to be out relatively soon or maybe is up on the site right now?
I'm going to be putting a review out probably today for the IREM collection volume 2, which has like the Gun Force games. So if you love Metal Slug and you want to see its origins, Gun Force 1 is more of a Contra based game, but you can see where the run and gun nature of Metal Slug was born. And then Gun Force 2 is literally just Metal Slug.
Yes.
Um, and it's a decent collection. It does have Air Duel in it for some reason. I think that they just wanted to like, hey, what can we put in as a third game? It feels like
Yes.
a very weird pack in. Hopefully this weekend I'm going to get my Dragon Age review done. So that should be up. Hopefully, I'm
Nice.
trying to hope for Sunday. I just have a few categories left to kind of talk about. And then
Fantastic.
I should have a review coming up for that. What is it? Rage of Dragons Neo. I'm going to be putting some time into that today.
Nice.
It's a kind of a remake of, or like kind of a kind of just a more confident port of like I think the 2002 game. So its visuals are very
Interesting. Okay.
typical to the Fatal Fury Garu of the Wolves, whatever game that was around back then.
Yeah.
It's a very, very hard fighting game. Holy hell. Like I tossed it down onto like the easiest mode just to see what that was like, and you're still
Yeah.
getting your ass handed.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, it is a very tough game. Like once you figure out some of the mechanics, like some of the movements and stuff, it's like this on the stick plus like one of the punch buttons just to do like a basic special attack. And I'm like, that's a really
Wow.
complicated one to pull off if you don't have a stick. But no, the characters are neat, and the neat thing about it, again, like we mentioned at the top of the show, there is like this was kind of meant to be connected to Double Dragon, and you even
Yeah.
have Billy and Jimmy, but they have a different last name, and then they redesigned the
That's
sprite
funny.
for a Bodo or Dobo, um, and they added a bunch of new characters and stuff. So a lot of fans still consider this to be part of Double Dragon. And with how Double Dragon's been working with a lot of other publishers and developers, I kind of almost wish that this would have got the advanced treatment of then connecting it to Double Dragon and being able
Yeah.
to change and alter stuff. But I like the character
I
sprite.
mean,
The,
maybe it's going to be one of those situations where if this game is good, they might they might go, "Oh, this time now you can have the license. Now go
yeah,
and do
made a
your
sequel.
thing."
We'll see how it goes, but honestly, it's out now. It's a pretty neat looking game. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me for like what I've
Nice.
been playing. I don't think because I'm gonna try and get back into Silent Hill 2 as well too. I that game is going to be reviewed before the end of the year.
Yes.
Because that is
Yeah.
definitely going to be I think it
And
might
I am
become
going to get onto that at some point because apparently it's not stuttering on PC anymore. And I may even pick it up on PlayStation just because it is PS5 Pro enhanced. And given that that game did have some issues with the base PS5 version, it'll probably be good to test out. So,
yeah.
I'm going to pick
It
that up
runs
at some
really
point
good
as well.
from what I've played of it. Like I've played probably I'm confidently, I'm going to say maybe a quarter of it, maybe a third.
Okay,
So I'll
not
be
bad,
jumping
not
back
bad.
into that as well too. I keep seeing people wasting so much ammo when they first encounter Pyramid Head, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, the fight is timed, guys. You just run laps around the room, and you won't spend any ammo. And then you see
Yeah,
people going, "I'm out of ammo, oh god!" And like he spent like
yeah,
120 clips, and I'm like, it's a timed fight.
yeah, yeah. Some people just don't know, do they? They just
Yeah,
don't know.
but yeah,
And then updates from me. When I can finish Dragon Age, I'll be doing a review for that on the Outer Haven. As I said, I will be previewing something that I can't tell you about yet, but in the coming weeks, I should be able to tell you about that, hopefully.
yeah,
Um, and then also, as I mentioned earlier briefly, I am playing Death Stranding again, so we're going to do an interesting thing for that where Jeff did Jeff reviewed the game when it came out. Now I'm here, so I'm going to add a second take to the review, and we're not going to change the score. But the interesting thing about my second take is I'm going to base it around what has been added in the director's cut version of the game. Because obviously, when Jeff reviewed it, the game was very different. Like, there's a lot of stuff in it now that was not in the original base game,
yeah,
and I'm going to focus it on that stuff. So there will be probably a few paragraphs from me added to that review, which we will share at some point when I
yeah.
get
And
around
I'll
to
be
that in the
changing
next couple of weeks.
the publishing date on that review as well, so it'll show up in the new stuff. So it will be a little confusing of like in terms of like because I'm going to put a a heading at the top of the review saying this original review was reviewed on this particular day.
Yeah,
Please see the second take at the bottom. So there's going to be some notice on there, and like that's not going to be precedent for anything, but it may very well at some point, depending on
yeah, and
certain
also
factors and things.
because there are some times, and we've discussed this before, right, Jeff? But there are times where a game warrants a second review potentially, like this, where there is a director's cut version that came several years after the original version of the game, and it added significant things to the game. You know, I'm sure that there are things Jeff would love to go back and review if we actually had time to do anything. So, but the advantage is we can do it in our second take format. And if you're not familiar with what that is, it's worth saying now. But when we both have played a game, and this is true of any review that we do that is going to be sort of new, when we've both played a game where I'm not doing a review for the Outer Haven, let's say, and Jeff is running the review or I'm running the review, whoever isn't will have their chance to have their take as part of our review. And their opinion could be different, it could be the same. There might be something they want to focus on. You know, I've done some of these second takes where I focus specifically on the accessibility in a game and what I think of that. It's a way for us to both have our opinions without it without us needing to do two different reviews, because I have seen sites do that as well where they will actually do two different reviews of the same game, and it's like, but you don't need to do that. You could just, you know. So yeah, it's new. We're figuring things out as we go, but Death Stranding, as one of my favorite games certainly of the last decade, felt like a good opportunity to do that, I think, especially given that I wasn't writing reviews when the game originally came out. So, me having a chance to write about why I love that game and what has changed and potentially improved or potentially isn't even needed, which is something I'll talk about. You know, is going to be nice to be able to do that. So that will come your way at some point within the next few weeks. It's not going to be as urgent because obviously the game is already out. It's not a brand new release or anything like that, but that will happen at some point, certainly by the end of the year for sure. And other than that, I think that's all we have for this week. But
I
I
got
would like to say thank you. Go on.
Banter is working lighting. So he's my lighting apparatus here. So I've got
Nice.
a he's working light rigging and all that kind of stuff. He's very
Maybe
very
that's what
professional.
you should let us know in the comments for this week. What animal should Jeff get next to add to our analog stick gaming team? We have a cat and we have a dog and we have Jeff. And now what else should we
Oh,
have?
watch out the lighting.
Oh my god. And talking of lighting, it's getting dark here as you can see because I have no light and it's
That's why I made the left side of the thing like gray and dark, because that's generally your aesthetic there, and then mine has kind of turned into this like brown. And one thing I like is too, it's like right where your microphone is, it looks like it
yeah.
actually like feeds off the bump that is at the bottom of the thumbnail.
It does. I've never noticed that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. We will be back next week with our Game Awards predictions episode. So that will be a longer one focused specifically on the Game Awards. So we'll probably have less news next week than we would normally have. But anything major, we will start the show off with that stuff. So, if you're looking forward to that, please make sure to like, subscribe. I'm going to add our Blue Sky links in the comments here. We'll get a proper page set up for the website on Blue Sky as well. So please come and join us over there. But for now, it's a goodbye from me.